Hey guys, welcome to the Elevate online experience and welcome to week 1 of a brand new series, No Offence. It's so good to have you. We've been waiting for you. Enjoy a great message. If you guys are at home and you've been enjoying our content so far, head over to our channels, like us, subscribe to our channels, and share our channels. We're about to reach a few new milestones, so we'd love you to join in. Jonathan Traylor is our awesome worship partner for today, so if you're at home, maybe join in and sing along.
Tomorrow will bring, but I know you are with me. And I do not know what the future will hold, but you never forsake me. In all my days, you never left my side. Cloud by day, fire by night, I'll follow you all of my life. I'll follow you all of my life. Yeah. I could not win this battle on my own. I'm so glad you are for me. I've been in the fire, but you brought me out. No, you never forsake me. In all my days, you never left my side. Cloud by day, fire by night, I'll follow you all of my life. I'll follow you all of my life. Step I take, you've already been there. And every move I make, you've seen it before. So I won't turn back now, for you are with me. You have led me here, so I will trust in the Lord. Step I take, you've already been there. And every move I make, you've seen it before. So I won't turn back now, for you are with me. You have led me here, so I will trust in the Lord. Cloud by day, fire by night, I'll follow you all of my life. I'll follow you all of my life. I'll follow you all of my life. There is a table filled with the best food. Can you hear the Father calling? There's a seat just for you. And at this table, all is forgiven. Trading your chains of bondage for crowns of freedom. All are welcome at the table. There is a place just for you. No condemnation at the table. There is a place just for you, just for you. Oh, this is the table of new beginnings. These cups are full of love, and it's never ending. And at this table, there are no orphans, just a loving Father and His sons and daughters. All are welcome at the table. There is a place just for you. No condemnation at the table. There is a place just for you. All are welcome at the table. There is a place just for you. No condemnation at the table. There is a place just for you, just for you. Yeah. There's a seat for you. This is the start of your new life. Leave your chains at the door. They can't hold you anymore. And hold your head up high. This is the start of your new life. All are welcome at the table. There is a place just for you. No condemnation at the table. There is a place just for you, just for you.
As I said before, guys, today is week 1 of a brand new series, No Offence. Here it is. It's taken by our very own Mark Pomeroy.
Well, hey there, Elevate family. Great to have you with us today on our Elevate online experience. Today, we're launching a brand new series called No Offence. And it comes off the back of a mini series we taught in the second half of 2021 called Don't Take the Bait. And the big idea for this mini series that we taught, Don't Take the Bait, recognized that inbound offense is unavoidable. We've got very little control over some of the offensive words that people speak to us, some of the offensive actions that people do to us. You know, even Jesus recognized this. He said to his disciples, it's impossible that no offenses should come. And when he used the word offense, he was using it to describe like the trigger that if we took the bait in a trap, that it would trigger the trap and actually cause us to be trapped because of us taking the bait of offense. And we concluded that mini-series by identifying that avoiding offense is impossible, but taking offense is a choice. So look, when we're done here today, I would encourage you to go back and watch that mini-series, or you can jump on our podcast and you'll find that same mini-series. You can catch up there. Don't take the bait. We get things said to us, things done to us that are offensive. About 3 Saturdays ago, now where I'm recording this from is actually Louisa and my part of our home. It's a new extension we built, and about a year ago we moved in, and the living areas of this extension are actually upstairs. So I'm sitting here in our living space upstairs, and we can see out over the backyards of all of our neighbors. And yes, they don't really like that very much, but we haven't broken any rules. And by the way, we don't sit there just looking into our neighbors' backyards. We have, I think it's called a life. But about 3 Saturdays ago, I was up here, and simultaneously in the afternoon, in a split second, 2 things happened. First of all, I heard our chickens going absolutely bonkers, squawking and flapping. And in the next split second, I noticed out of the corner of my eye this incredibly large branch falling away from a pretty decent sized tree in our neighbor's backyard. And this branch fell and bounced on our adjoining fence and then catapulted over into our backyard. And, you know, that's not cool. The next day, I didn't have time to do anything about it that day. The next day, Sunday, around lunchtime, I went out there with my pruning saw and my ridgy-dig saw, big saw, with the idea of chopping this pretty substantial branch into bite-sized pieces and then just dropping them over back into the neighbor's property. I mean, it's a branch from their tree, the tree's in their property, the branch was growing on their property, so, you know, it's only right that I would give them back their property. Well, as I was dropping these bite-sized pieces of tree in their backyard, the neighbors converged on me, and their daughter started going bonkers, kicked off on me. This is ruining other trees in our backyard. This isn't our property. It fell on your property. It was your responsibility to take care of it when it was on the tree. It's your responsibility to take care of it now that it's fallen into your backyard. You can't give it back to us. You need to put it out and take it to the tip to yourself to have it. And I was like, no, I don't think so. And I, pushed back, you might say. Well, anyway, I won't bore you with too many more of the details, but here's the reality. This is something that they grew, that they didn't take care of, they took no responsibility for when it broke. It suddenly became our responsibility, and even when I took some responsibility, they let their attack dog daughter loose on me and try to make me, feel like I'd done something wrong, which I hadn't. And full disclosure, I found everything about that offensive. I found it offensive that they took no responsibility for any aspect of it. I found it offensive that the daughter spoke to me disrespectfully on my property. And I found it offensive that at no point did they apologize, did they offer to help. And then I ultimately found it the most offensive that they somehow try to make it feel like we'd done something wrong here. Yes, their behavior, from my perspective, was offensive. But did I take offense? No. And it's not because I'm so great. It's because it's just not worth it. It's a branch off a tree. I dealt with it. I didn't like what they had to do, but I didn't take offense. I didn't, therefore, not enjoy my Sunday afternoon. I didn't have a restless night's sleep. I didn't take offense. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more today, a better approach. Now, next week, I'm going to teach on how to deal with those people. And they might be your neighbors. They might be your family members. They might be your relatives. They might be your colleagues. They might be your boss. They might be your employees. They might be people in your university, people in your school. We're going to talk about that next week, how to deal with those people. So I'll move on today. But what I want to talk about today is how to stop taking offense. You know, when things like that happen to me, what is it? What sort of superpower have I developed that allowed me the resolve to not take offense? Because we now live in a culture where many people have concluded that when offense comes inbound, the only two options are either to take offense or to just cancel the other person and kind of deflect it that way. You know, growing number of people in our culture are becoming very easily offended, triggered by small things. Urban Dictionary describes them as snowflakes, you know, lacking resilience, just being triggered by the smallest, most insignificant things. Now, I found this meme during the week. Kids today are soft. I died once when I was 5, and my mum made me walk it off. You know, maybe some of you come from that generation. Maybe some of you don't. Maybe some of you haven't yet developed the sort of resilience that would make you less vulnerable to taking offense when offensive things come in your direction. So let's talk about that today. But here's a question. If you are easily offended, how's that working for you? Is it adding value to your life? Is the way you react and kick off in response to your offense, is that adding value to other people's lives, the people in your sphere? Is it bringing you more joy and more peace? And I would probably guess with a reasonable level of confidence that it's doing no good to you, that it's probably causing you more frustration and more anxiety and more anger, that it's probably robbing you of joy and peace. And I would put it to you that it's actually not God's best. Now, I'm aware that the very title of today's message, Stop Taking Offense, may on the surface come across as a little dismissive or maybe a little trite, a little offensive. But the good news is that it is actually both possible to stop taking offense and actually optimal to stop taking offense. It's actually better. In fact, when we taught the series, Don't Take the Bait, we drew on something that Solomon wrote in his book of wise sayings, where he observed that a person's wisdom yields patience, and it's to one's glory to overlook an offense. That you'll shine brighter by developing the ability to overlook an offense. And this word overlook just simply meant to step over. That is, you're walking through the journey of life, an offense comes your way, someone lobs an offense bomb in your path, that in particular with the smaller offenses, just step over them and keep going. It's not worth getting caught in the trap. And so when some of your wise, well-meaning friends have said to you, just get over it, if you've ever initially said, well, you don't understand, actually, they probably understand better than you think, and telling you to just get over it could be potentially the best advice they've ever given you, and it lines up exactly with what Solomon was telling. Now, if you want to dive a lot deeper, we're going to teach this series for 3 weeks. If you want to dive a lot deeper during this time, and there's a book that I highly recommend, whose title kind of sounds preposterous. It's called Unoffendable by Brant Hansen. But as preposterous as it may sound, what an incredible goal to become unoffendable. So let me jump off with something that James wrote. Now, if you've got your Bible app, how about you tap that open to James chapter 1. This is a letter of instruction written by Jesus' half-brother, James. Same mom, different dad. And his letter that he wrote is known for being uber practical. It's all about how our living can actually line up with our stated beliefs, like our day-to-day lining up with this belief that we profess. And so he actually gives this, right early in his letter, he gives this instruction that lays out a pattern, an order of how we ought to, according to James, interact with other people. Let me read it with you. James wrote, "Post this at all the intersections." In other words, it's super important, people. Make sure everyone gets this memo, dear friends. And this is the pattern. Firstly, lead with your ears. Then follow up with your tongue. And finally, thirdly, let anger straggle along in the rear. Lead with your ears, follow up with your tongue, and let anger straggle along in the rear. Now, if you're brave enough, wherever you're joining us from, what score would you give yourself out of 10 in general with how you interact with people? Day to day, and especially when you're triggered, especially when someone says or does something offensive to you. Do you lead with your ears, follow up with your tongue, and let anger straggle along in the rear? Because here's the deal. A lot of people in our culture have this exactly the other way around. Lead with anger, follow up with their tongue, and finally, just maybe, let their ears straggle along at the rear. Well, here's a fun fact. When Jesus was on the earth in his public ministry time, 3.5 years public ministry, his biographers record him as having received 183 questions, of which, by the way, he only answered 3 of them directly. All the while, in this same 3.5 year period, having had 183 questions inbound, he actually is recorded as having asked 307 questions. So he's approaching nearly twice the amount of questions he asked. And by the way, this is the Son of God asking, who knew everything. He asked nearly twice as many questions as he was asked. And so he sets this example to follow, that we lead with questions, lead with listening. And then James goes on to really explain why. He said, lead with your ears, follow it with your tongue, and let anger straggle along in the rear. And here's why that matters. Because God's righteousness doesn't grow from human anger. That we're created for so much more, so much better than being offended and angry. That we're to live at a higher altitude, and it's better than living among the turkeys. That we just react and kick off at everything. And ultimately, that we will never advance God's purposes by walking around expressing our anger at the time. That God's righteousness spreads, that the ability to draw people closer to being in a right relationship with God, it doesn't happen by us acting angry. It happens by us leading with our ears, following up with our tongue, and then letting anger straggle along at the rear. And so in light of James's why, that it's about our purpose on earth is to spread God's righteousness in our sphere of influence, let me go back and ask a question I asked earlier. If you're someone who is easily offended, how's that working for you? Is it adding value to your marriage? Is it causing your kids to want to be more like Jesus? And then this one, the big idea from James, is it leading you, the people in your sphere, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbors, your fellow students, to want to pursue the things of God, inquire the things of God, or have you become the actual sticking point because you're always offended and you're always angry. So here's a question I encourage you to ask when you feel triggered and you're tempted to kick off. Ask yourself this question: do I want to make a point, or do I want to make a difference? Is my goal to win an argument? Or is my goal a bigger goal, a higher goal, a longer term goal to build trust and influence? So here's one of the 3 questions that Jesus did actually answer. Of the 183 that he was asked, he only directly answered 3. Here's one of the 3 that he answered. And I like that he answered this in response to a guy who was actually looking for the truth. Someone who was mining for gold, wasn't trying to trip Jesus up, wasn't trying to sound like a smart aleck. He was actually like, Jesus, I really want you to help me understand something. What's the greatest commandment of the 600 plus that we're trying to kind of live by? What's the greatest? And Jesus said to him, and the audience were listening in, love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and intelligence. This is the most important, the first on any list. But there's a second to set alongside it, equally important. Always be right so you show the world you love yourself. No. Except that second bit is fake news. Jesus talked about, actually, his response was that we're to love the Lord our God, first and foremost, and then alongside this, love others as well as you love yourself. See, kicking off and taking offense and trying to make a point instead of making a difference, trying to win an argument instead of trying to win people over with trust and influence, this is not the best. This isn't the pattern that Jesus laid out. In fact, I would describe Jesus' pattern when it comes to people saying and doing offensive things to us. Our response, lead with love. When it comes to our response, lead with love, because love will take us to a higher altitude. Love demonstrates our higher purpose. Now, leading with love doesn't mean you can't have an opinion, and leading with love doesn't mean you can't share your opinion. It does, however, question your motivation. It causes you to say, if I was to offer up my opinion, what's my motivation? Is, yes or no, is my motivation love? And if it's not, then maybe don't try to squeeze the juice out of that one. Just shut it. In my pro tip, once you've answered the question, is my motivation to lead with love? And if your answer is yes, then one way to actually build a bridge to the person and demonstrate to them that your motivation is to lead with love is, before you speak, or before you type, or before you use your thumbs, ask their permission. Something as simple as, I'm not sure that I fully agree with what you've just done, or fully appreciate what you've just done. Would you be open to me just kind of sharing my thoughts on that, my opinion on that? And by the way, they might say, no, I'm not open to that. And you just, well, that's it. Just walk away. But they might say, yeah, okay, sure. I'd be open to hearing what you have to say. Now, you might not convince them of everything. In fact, maybe the job isn't trying to convince them. It's just to ensure that they have a bit of a kind of understanding of where you're coming from, or maybe the little bit of a ding that you took based on what they said or did to you. But the biggest thing, and the thing that we stand before God, is to say, did I lead with love? And I've found that if we lead with love, and if we ask permission, and our idea isn't to make a point, it's to make a difference, that over time, you'll start to build trust, even with people who don't agree with you. All right, Speaking of people who don't agree with you, as I mentioned, next week I'm going to be teaching about how to deal with those people, because all of us have those people in our lives and we don't always know how to deal with them. So, hey, join us next week. Bring a friend, bring some friends, because some of your friends are tripping up over this exact same stuff, even if they're not Jesus followers. This is a human problem, not just a Jesus follower problem. And then a little heads up, week 3 of our series, our great friend and teaching team member, Steve Hall, is going to actually teach about what to do when bitterness takes over. And hopefully some of you will get unstuck, maybe if you've got some bitterness bubbling below the surface. Now, final thing, just to give you a point in the direction of, there's a Bible plan that's called No Offence, which is actually part of this series. So if you open up your Bible app or on the desktop, bible.com, go to plans and just type in the search bar, No Offence. You'll find a 7-day Bible plan there. I'm already doing it. Some of our team are going to be doing it. And we'd love for you to be a part of journeying through that Bible plan as well. Okay, next week, how to deal with those people.
If you've been joining us here and there, or maybe regularly for a few weeks now, the ways to give can be found below. It really helps us reach and build into people all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys. We really appreciate your company. Maybe next week, think about hosting a watch party from your own place. Until then, enjoy it. We'll see you next time.